So here we are. Pretty much everything, except for the two things we mentioned earlier, has been resolved. Raziel's Destiny, the two paintings, hopefully make sense now. He actually is Redeemer and Destroyer. He is both the Hilden and Vampire Champion. And he also kills himself, which explains why they both die.
In essence, he's the Hilden Champion, or he's the Vampire Champion for redeeming Cain. He's the Hilden Champion in assisting Cain in defeating the Elder God.
And well, he's also the Hilden Champion because he, killed Cain and all that shit. But the other thing is that here, now Cain is finally able to see the Elder God. We saw this when he stabbed Mobius, and Mobius was able to see him. What this is the Spirit Reaver has now been able to purify Cain of his corruption that he's had since birth. Basically, what happened is when Nubraptor poisoned the circle in the very first game, they don't, until the end, they surprise you with the fact that you're the Balance Guardian, and now you have to die too. So this is the reason why Cain is basically nuts for all the other games, is because he's been poisoned with this insanity from Nubraptor. And finally now he's cleared of it, which allows Cain to finally do his job of being a guardian and the scion. Now, we managed to talk over half of this, but it's also because the only time we've had to talk is during this fight. But, this fight's kind of interesting. Basically, you have tentacles which sweep the ground. They'll do a wham, sort of slam attack. Then they give you a slight opening in which you can attack them. Do this twice, and the Elder God will lower his shield, and you can attack his big, stupid blue eyeball.
And when the shield is green, that's when he's attacking you with his tentacles. When the shield is red, that's when he's shooting projectiles at you.
Exactly. Later on, he'll continue to shoot projectiles throughout the fights. And here you can see he's begun shooting both tracking and non-tracking fireballs just to F with you.
And the ones with the green sparkles, those are the ones that just kind of fly around in a circle.
Right, and if you jump, you pretty much head right into them. So now 3 tentacles. And basically at this point what's going to happen is it continues to get faster and faster. More tentacles, more attacks, constant movement required, and your window to actually attack the tentacles just gets smaller and smaller. And he says Defiance a lot, still, because it's the name of the game.
This Defiance is pointless.
Thankfully we're getting pretty close to the end of this fight, but this fight actually is pretty tough. You can see, even having done it multiple times, I'm still taking a lot of damage. Down to about half health now.
Yeah, at least the series is able to end on a high note.
And it's a nice, unique boss. Plus you got the Soul Reaver again, which is pretty awesome. Even though poor Raziel had to make the sacrifice for it. But in the end, I mean, it's all that made sense. Where else could Raziel have gone? It really did conclude his story the way it had to be. There has to be a soul in the soul.
Exactly. For the whole game, Cain had the Blood Reaver.
Right. And it also finally explains the paradox which everyone has been questioning, which is how the hell does Raziel have his own soul around his arm? And then what happens if he goes into the Reaver? Where does that soul go? Does that make the Reaver infinitely more powerful every time time loops? Because it would keep gaining more and more souls wrapped around it?
Well, the difference here is that the original Soul Reaver that Cain had at in Blood Omen, that was Raziel, but he was corrupted. That was a maddened.
Well, that was just due to time.
A maddened Wraith Blade.
Yeah, it was corrupted due to time, and it had been so long.
In this instance, though.
By the way, F you for teleporting.
life itself. The wheel will turn, the plague of your kind will be purged from this world, and on that inevitable day, your wretched, stagnant soul will finally be mine.
In the meantime, you'd best burrow deep. Now at last, the masks had fallen away. The strings of the puppets had become visible, and the hands of the Prime Mover exposed. Most ironic of all was the last gift that Raziel had given me. More powerful than the sword that now held his soul, more acute even than the vision his sacrifice had accorded me. The first bitter taste of that terrible illusion. Hope.
And that is how the series ends forever.
Yep.
On an uplifting note that never ends. Awesome.
So we're never going to know if the Elder God ends up being defeated, or what.
Let's just say yes. I'm gonna say yes. He gets defeated.
Or what happens to the Hilden.
I already know what happens to the Hilden.
Oh, right.
That was Blood Omen 2.
Right, the end of Blood Omen 2. Right, that's what happens to the Hilden. Chronologically, Blood Omen 2 happens next.
Yeah. Although not with this Kane.
Right, with a different Kane.
So, but what we were saying, I was saying about the Soul Reavers, yeah, that was, so basically what happens is, Raziel has, my god, it's ridiculous. So there's a period where time was looping, and Raziel had both himself around himself from Kane breaking the blade over him, right?
Right.
So he had his soul bound to himself. But the thing is, if Soul Reaver 2 had been allowed to happen, where he jammed himself with the sword, if he gets absorbed into that sword, that means there are now 2 Raziels inside the sword instead of 1.
Oh, I see.
So what happens if it does it again? 3? Next time? 4? Is there just more and more Raziels inside there?
Well, the thing is that we are assuming that he traces the same path every time.
Well, that's saying that he did. This is the paradox that we all thought of back in the day. Defiance has allowed the path to change finally and show what happens when it changed. And the good thing is that it gives an answer to where the spectral blade goes. It goes into fucking Kane. Done. End of story. No more paradox. It's over. It's inside his veins, humming around. Which is even weirder, because that means there's a Raziel inside his soul and one inside his blade.
It also kind of makes me wonder if Kane is now immortal, because if he's purified of the Hilden curse, then would he still be a vampire?
No, he's not purified of the Hilden curse. He's purified of Nupraptor's curse. See, Nupraptor is the mind guardian, and when Ariel was killed, he went insane and infected the entire circle, which is what caused the problem in Blood Omen 1 where you had to kill all the guardians.
Right.
Basically, until the guardian was killed, and he was unable to restore the pillar. And since Kane is the balance guardian, the balance guardian's life is the only thing that he has to die. There's no object that can be returned. He has to literally be dead. So, thankfully, what this did is it cured him of the madness. Unfortunately, the pillars are still broken.
Well,
So
that'd be a pretty cool 6th game, is playing as Kane, or as someone Kane endows with the ability to raise the pillars.
Well, that game is never going to happen.
I know it's never going to happen, but that would be a good conclusion, since the Hilden had been wiped out in Blood Omen 2. Basically,
No, all that needs to happen is Squiddy needs to die, and it needs to be over.
yeah.
They should release a 15-minute game where he pops out of a cave and walks down a hole, or he goes to the bottom of the pillars where he's always fucking at, and then he just stabs him with a sword, and that's the end. And it could be a movie that lasts only 5 minutes, and we'd be like, Kane series is over.
They could upload it on YouTube.
I'd be totally I will host it. But no, so yeah, that's the end of the Kane series, guys. Unfortunately, that's how it ends. Thank you for joining me. It's been a lot of fun for all of us. I'm speaking for Scarface and Leading Man and Lone Magician, even though they're not here.
And thanks for having me along for most of Soul Reaver and Defiance.
Yeah, it's been a blast, man. I had a good time.
Yeah, me too.
All right, guys. Look forward to another LP one of these days. I'm still working on what it's going to be and how, but I'm sure we'll update soon.
Absolutely.
Anyways, guys, catch you later.
All right, take care.
Bye. Oh, an extra surprise, which this doesn't require Kari to be here since he probably turned off his Audacity anyways. But at the end of here, Rule 63. Someone doomed this, and it's your fault. So there you go.